Hey, this is Andrea.
And this is Amanda.
I am the sword in the darkness.
And you're listening to Girls Nerd Out.
I am the watcher on the walls.
And now our rewatch has begun.
Dracarys.
This podcast is sponsored by May of London, who creates jewelry seen on and inspired by your favorite characters from Game of Thrones. Visit their website at may.london. That's MEY.London. Welcome back to all of our faithful, amazing listeners, and welcome to all the new people that we adore. It's me, Amanda, and my best friend, Andrea.
Hey.
And we're excited to talk to you about Season 2. Episode 7 is called A Man Without Honor, and it doesn't really take a lot to know who they're speaking of. Andrea is the person that is the most knowledgeable about the Ironborn that I know. And I'm not just saying that because she's my best friend. She knows a lot about the Targaryens and a lot about the Ironborn. And because of that, I want you to start us off because we go right into it. And I just love your perspective.
So basically it opens up with Theon waking up, and by the way, he must be a really deep sleeper to not notice that somebody's not in the bed. I notice when somebody's not in the bed, so it's
Or you think he would be sleeping light because he doesn't fully trust her. I'm like, hey, all right, dude.
I mean, your sword is in that room, right? So like she could take her sword and kill you with it.
He's making a lot of bad decisions, Andrea.
Oh, it's really sad to watch. So Theon realizes she's gone and then finds out that the Rickon and Bran are gone as well, and he gets mad at one of his Ironborn letting a disabled boy escape. He says cripple. I don't like to use that word, so I'm going to say disabled.
I agree with you. I agree. And I get why they use that word. I get it because that's in the books and like it's that, but like I'm with you. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the Ironborn man, I don't know his name. The guy said that he said that the giant must have taken him, which he's talking about Hodor. And Theon's like, so you let a half-wit escape and a disabled kid, and where were you, sir? Like, where were you?
And like the half-wit thing, I mean, that's another one, you know, like that's developmentally delayed intellectual disability. And we have to give George credit for actually putting people with those abilities in his books because it does start a dialogue, and I appreciate that. I do.
Yeah. And like Theon was, sleeping with Asha, so like she's gone. She's probably with them, and I like how the guy calls Theon out for sleeping with her.
Yeah. Yep. That was not smart. I was just gonna say, in that specific part, he seems to be really trying to get the approval of Dagmar because he looks to him like, what should I do? And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, he's so naive. And Theon beats him up, and they're going to go look for the boys.
He beats him up pretty bad.
I think it's funny how Dagmar finds him so amusing. And because he does look for him for help, but like when he actually does something and says stuff like we're gonna bring Maester Luwin with us, we're gonna go hunting, we're gonna go get those boys, and like every time he gets more brave with his words.
Yep, he does. And if you want to talk about the next scene, I mean, it continues with him. So
I think it's odd that they take Maester Luwin. I guess maybe so he doesn't send any ravens.
Good point.
I can't remember why.
Well, they don't say, so I think you're right.
I would assume but then why don't they just kill all the ravens like they do later? Like that would make more sense. Maybe they just didn't think they'd have time. Or
maybe they don't trust him because they figure he'll go talk to the other people there and maybe like start something or try to get out. I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably it. And Theon has a conversation with Maester Luwin, and Maester Luwin's like, they're just little boys. And Theon's like, I never ran away. Well, I was a captive here, and I never ran away. And he talks about how, like, his sister is at Deepwood Mont because Luwin's like, hey, Robb's going to know about this, and he's going to come send men. Robb is far away, and his sister is at Deepwood Mont, and she's got 500 men that can hold Winterfell.
which Yara and her men are a lot different than Theon and his little skeleton crew.
His little 20 people.
Mm-hmm.
But Ned Stark said once that 500 men could hold Winterfell against 10,000.
Yeah, what do you think about that? Interesting, huh?
It's interesting, but it makes the Long Night even dumber
Yep.
to me now because they had all these people. They could have survived against, like, they could have.
Good.
Like, there's no way they should have been able to breach
Good point. Look,
Winterfell.
Andrea, that's a very good point, and I didn't even think of that. I am so glad you said that. 500, so like Ned would mean like 500 good men. 500 good men is all it takes. And like you have zombies that are like in parts, like just climbing. I can't. Okay, good, very good.
I understand that they're like magic,
Yeah, but
right?
like
Just like the
you can like
dragons.
knock their head off too, though.
Yes, you can. And I don't understand how they were able to breach. I just don't get it. They reach a farm, and it's the same farm that Bran sent 2 orphan boys to watch out for the wolves. And they're the ones that Theon kills.
Y'all, we get very emotionally attached, but it's just what we do. Oh, Andrea texted me last night about it, and I was like, I know, it's so brutal. Because, like, Bran's friends with them, and there's a theory that we talked about. The theory is that those boys might be Theon's sons, or maybe one of them, because he was actually sleeping with their mother in the books, which adds another layer of, oh my God. So, yeah, bad path. Going down a bad path.
It is a sad
Yeah,
path.
and I actually don't know, like, we'll mention it later, but I don't know if there's a possibility those are his kids in the show, but he shows emotion like it might be. I don't know.
Winter is coming.
After that, we're in the woods outside Winterfell, and we have Hodor, Bran, Rickon, Asha, and the direwolves. And Asha is pointing out that they don't have enough food. And I thought this was so impressive. Bran's like, we couldn't risk going into the kitchens. And Asha's like, all those people love you. They would have given you anything you need. And Bran says, if Theon found out, he'd hang them. What a sweet little lord. I mean, and to know that and be that young and to have that kind of, these people are more important than hunger. You know what it does? It makes me wish that Bran either didn't become the three-eyed raven or like became the three-eyed raven and not a spaced out thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, just because you can see everything doesn't mean that you should be a dick.
No, in the books, Bloodraven has a personality.
Yes.
So, yeah, choices. So this is where Bran sees the farm where the 2 orphan boys live, and he talks about how one of them can climb a tree really well. And oh yeah, Bran says they're going to be after us with the hounds, and Asha knows they can't outrun the hounds forever.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Next, we are north of the wall, and we see a very comfortable Jon Snow with Ygritte, and he's just straight up grabbing her boob. There's a lot of funny to this. It really is. Andrew and I aren't super fond of book Ygritte. She's different. How would we say that? She puts a lot more pressure on him.
Yeah.
I mean,
that I would say it so.
yeah. Show Ygritte is more likable, and like a scene like this is kind of why. Because she says, "Did you pull a knife on me in the night?"
John's like, shit, it's up.
You can't do nothing about it. And she's like, what's the matter? It can't be the first time you pressed your bone against a woman's arse. And she realizes, oh, it is. And she's like, it is the first time. How old are you, boy? He's so mad. And I mean, we have to talk about it. She says, you're a boy who's never been with a girl. Don't your stones start to hurt if your bone never gets? Whee! And she's basically talking about blue balls for a while. And she's trying to figure out like how all these men hang out and they don't have women. And she's like, so there's no women? He's like, no. And she's like, so the lads just do it with each other? He's like, no. And she's like, do you have sheep? He's like looking at her and she's like, oh, with your hands then. No wonder you're all so miserable.
I wish they would have put Satin in the show because I'm like, John, I believe, is bisexual. So
Will you explain who Satin is for people that haven't read the books?
So Satin is a recruit of the Night's Watch who was once a prostitute in Old Town.
And some people did not want him in the Night's Watch. And John basically told them, get over it.
Yep, I love that.
Look, I don't have a problem if he is. I don't think he is, but I don't have a problem if he is at all. I don't. But also at the same time, it's hard to say because we just need more. We need more. Because he's older, you know? Like, we need more, post-ghost John. But if he is, like, I have no issue.
I also like that John doesn't like her calling his balls stones or his member a bone.
Yeah, he's real bothered by that. And I'm like, okay. What if he doesn't want her to say that just because if she says that he gets excited? Oh, that's funny.
I like that she calls herself a free woman because she is. She's like, I might be your prisoner, but I'm a free woman. And I like when he says, if you're my prisoner, you're not a free woman. And that's true.
What I find really interesting is they're talking about how people south of the wall invade their lands. And John's like, wildlings raid our lands all the time. Some of them tried to kill my little brother. And she's like, they're not your lands. We've been here the whole time. You lot came along and just put up a big wall and said it was yours. John says, my father was Ned Stark. I have the blood of the first men. My ancestors lived here, same as yours. And then Ygritte says, so why are you fighting us? Very good point. Yeah. And also probably the beginning, I would say, of John getting an idea, hey, these are just people too. I think it's starting right here.
When he meets Mance Rayder, that's when I think it's like fully okay.
You mean Rhaegar?
Yeah, Rhaegar.
A lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of a sheep.
Next we go to Harrenhal, and I forgot about this scene. Like, it just shows like the bottom of Harrenhal and like pans up. Harrenhal looks like shit. I'm actually glad because, I mean, it was burnt by Balerion the Black Dread.
Poor Daemon, he tried.
In House of the Dragon Season 2, Daemon Targaryen is seen repairing Harrenhal. These repairs are not visible in Game of Thrones.
I just want to say quickly, I believe that he may have tried to do that in the book too. I do, because he was there for so long. Why not,
Look, it's burnt or not, it's still Harrenhal. Yeah. I mean, it's big, and it still has walls. So, I mean, it would definitely be a place that you would want people. Because, I mean, like, most of the top is burnt, but, like, it's still a giant place. So, I mean, I agree with you. Except that it's cursed. I mean, there's that. Actually, Andrea prefers castles that are cursed, by the way. I'm just putting that out there. So, we go into Harrenhal. We got Tywin. He's freaking out because Lorch made it to the door and then he was dead. And so Tywin assumes that that's an assassin coming after Tywin, which would make sense, actually. And he says it's Wolfsbane, a rare substance. This is no common assassin. And Tywin's basically he's saying, like, I don't care how many people you hang. I want his name and I want his head, because he's freaked out. And the mountain thinks it was an infiltrator from the Brotherhood Without Banners. That's going to come up multiple times. And just in case you don't remember, they don't explain this well enough, I think. Again, the Brotherhood Without Banners. So it's Thoros Emir, Beric Dondarrion, and some others that were the men that Ned sent when he was Hand of the King to go find the mountain and bring him to justice. So they're still doing what Ned told them to do. That's why the mountain really wants to find them. Okay, I have a question for you, Andrea. So the mountain says killing them isn't the problem, it's finding them. And Tyrion says, have you gone soft, Clegane? I always thought you had a talent for violence. Is he talking about Elia?
I'm not sure, but yeah, probably.
It gave me an eerie feeling. Like, I feel like that might be what he's talking about. Which, just in case anybody doesn't know, that is Rhaegar's wife. And the mountain murdered her and her children.
Rhaegar Targaryen is the older brother of Daenerys Targaryen, who died years ago at the hands of Robert Baratheon.
After that, the mountain leaves, and I love this scene. Damn it. I'm just talking about how Tywin had Ely and her children killed, and now I want to talk good about him. It's Charles Dance, damn it. So Tywin asks if the food that Arya just brought in is mutton, and she says yes, and he says he doesn't like mutton. I fully believe he says that because he knows she's hungry. Yeah. And he said, leave it. Are you hungry? And she's trying to say no, and he's like, of course you are, eat. And he pretty much forces her to eat. And one of the lines that I think is so cute that Arya says, he says, you're small for your age. I suppose you've been underfed your whole life. And she has food all in her mouth, and she goes, I eat a lot. I just don't grow. Which is really cute because, I mean, Maisie's a tiny person. And Tywin is very dramatic in this next part because he's thinking like this war is his legacy. He says it will be his last war and it's going to be the one he's remembered for. And he asks her what legacy means. And she says no. And he says, it's what you pass down to your children and your children's children. It's what remains of you when you're gone. Harren the Black thought this castle would be his legacy, the greatest fortress ever built.
Harren the Black was an Ironborn king who ruled over the Iron Islands and the Riverlands from his castle, Harrenhal. Harren refused to bend the knee to Aegon the First Targaryen during the conquest.
I will tell you this. I don't know anybody that's read Fire and Blood more than Andrea. I would like you to talk about the next part, about the story of Harrenhal, because I know you're very passionate about that.
Harrenhal, it was beautiful, actually, but he wanted to be, king. He was king. Aegon came. There was 35 hearths in Harrenhal. That's how big it was. And Harrenhal was built to withstand an attack, but not dragonfire. They didn't bet on dragonfire. Harren the Black says that that dragonfire can't melt stone, but Aegon's just like, it's built with more than just stone.
Yeah.
You've got people that has clothes. You got hay. You've got all this stuff that can set on fire. And you put all your people on the top. They're gonna die.
Not to mention, none of that had to happen. None of it.
No. He just had to bend the knee. That's it. And I get it. I totally get not wanting to bend the knee. He was an Ironborn. Yeah. I get it. But sir, you melted.
Yeah.
Everything
melted. Because it's like, yeah, stone doesn't burn. What? The shit melts. Like, Balerion is the biggest dragon that we know, because this is post-Doom. He's got the hottest fire. The bigger the dragon, the hotter the fire. So, I mean, like, that's the kind of damage a dragon can do that we don't see a lot of.
And Tywin says that Aegon and his dragons changed the rules.
That's why every child alive still knows his name. And Arya says, Aegon and his sisters. And he's like, hmm? And she says, it wasn't just Aegon riding his dragon, it was Rhaenys and Visenya too. Rhaenys rode Meraxes. Visenya rode Vhagar. Visenya Targaryen was a great warrior. She had a Valyrian steel sword she called Dark Sister. And there's a really cute scene where Tywin's like, aren't girls more interested in the pretty maidens? Jonquil, flowers in her hair. And Arya says, most girls are idiots.
Follow your favorite podcasters on all social media at Southern Mother of Dragons and at the Princess of Dragonstone.
And that's when Tywin says, you remind me of my daughter. And I put a little note here that he likes Arya more than Tyrion. And he
Yep.
really does. And also during this scene, it's very small and most people wouldn't notice, but Tywin pours his own wine. He doesn't get her to stop eating to pour his wine. So that tells you he really does like her. And I kind of think he would have taken her with him if he didn't think he was going straight into a battle. But that's just me. That's just me.
I personally, if I was ever king or queen or a lord or whatever, I would never have, or I mean, not a lord. I can't be a lord. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have a cupbearer. These people can get up and pour their own damn wine.
They act like they can't. But Tywin did. So she would keep eating.
Yep.
And it's a really iconic scene. She's about to leave and he says, my lord. And she's like, what? He said, low-born girls say my lord, not my lord. If you're going to pose as a commoner, you should do it properly.
Yeah, she comes back at him too.
Yep.
She says her mom served Lady Dustin for years, and she taught Arya how to speak properly.
And he says, you're too smart for your own good. Has anyone told you that? And she says, yes. I love that scene. I really, really do.
Winter is coming.
This is Sansa and the Hound.
It's not a very big scene. It's just Sansa wished she would have thanked him before. You know, he's like, I don't really need your thanks kind of attitude. But basically, she just wants to thank him. And then she's like, why are you so hateful? Or not before that. Before that, she's like, why do you like to scare people? And he tells her that a dog doesn't need courage to chase off rats.
I mean, true. I think a bit of what he's doing is he's trying to seem really, really, really scary because he doesn't want to make it seem like he cares for her. But I mean, he does say, you'll be glad of the hateful things I do someday when you're queen and I'm all that stands between you and your beloved king.
Yeah, and he doesn't believe her when she says, because, what, Ned didn't kill people, like the good old Ned? And she said that was his duty. He never liked it. And I mean, I believe that, but also it makes sense why he says to her, nah, that was a lie.
Yeah, because she's young and, you know, Sansa's learning a lot of stuff. So, lesson.
You know, I think he would have been great to have around. I bet he wouldn't have minded killing Aerys Targaryen because, not when it was too late to kill him, but like when he, you know, when the Kingsguard wouldn't go in to stop the Mad King from doing horrible things to his wife. I feel like the Hound would have killed him right there.
Yeah, he might have. Yeah, that's interesting. Especially if it was the Hound and young Jamie, and young Jamie's like saying we need to do something. I don't know. He lets Joffrey do some stuff, but like you were saying, like that's the queen. So yeah.
I just feel like I just don't understand how Sir Arthur Dayne. I don't consider Sir Arthur Dayne that great of a person if he wouldn't stop the king.
Oh no. It's a reoccurring theme that it's, you know, the thought of a knight, you know, like rescue, honorable, all that. And then you meet the knights in Georgia stories and they are not that. But then you have people that are honorable and, do the things that you think a knight would do, but they're not knights. And that ties into A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms with Dunk and Egg, because Sir Duncan the Tall is technically not a knight, we don't think. But he acts like what you would think a knight would. So it's actually pretty interesting.
Targaryens are gone.
Not all of them.
We go to Karth. And we see Zara's and Daxus. He irritates me in this. So Daenerys is obviously freaking out because she doesn't have her dragons. And Zara says he's demanded a meeting of the 13. One of them knows this or who did it. She's like, you're one of the 13. She knows. Like, she doesn't trust him and shouldn't. And Zara says, if I wanted your dragons, I would have taken them. They mean nothing to me on their own. And Daenerys is like, nothing? They're more valuable than anything in the world. She's like, all right, dumbass. She's over him, by the way. And here we go, talking about his vault. He says, shall we look inside my vault and see what selling your dragons would buy me I cannot buy already? And he says, we will get them back. Daenerys is real quick to say, there is no we. And she's like, why are you going to help me? And he says the whole thing about him cutting his hand when they went in Karth, that she's supposed to be under his protection, and a man is what others say he is and no more, which is really ironic later. And she said, but it did happen under your roof. And he says, Khaleesi, many times in my life I have been. And she cuts him off and says, I don't care where you've been. And that is when you realize that Daenerys is also tired of hearing Zara talk about sleeping on the docks.
I was like, you're not about to start on another story about yourself. Like, come on, nobody
Because
cares.
Nobody he was saying, many times in my life I have been, and like he was going to say, like, I have done this, and then I ended up sleeping on the docks. Like, she knows it.
I send this the old way. You against me.
So next we go back to the far north. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't take a lot of notes, but they're talking about, she's talking about how her and her people are free, Ygritte and with Jon, and she talks about how we don't go serving some shit king who's only king because of because his father was, and I totally understand that. Like, that makes the Seven Kingdoms look like idiots, to be honest. And that's kind of why I want them separate. Yep. But anyway, so John's just like, no, you chose to follow Mance Rhaegar / Rhaegar Targaryen, the king beyond the wall.
Thank you for saying that, because I want to clip this. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a theory that Mance Rayder is Rhaegar. God knows how it could even be true, but we choose to believe it because it's absurd and we like it.
Well, I mean, if a young Griff can dye his hair, so can Rhaegar. Not saying he would allow what happened to his family happen. It's probably just I strongly believe he's somebody important, Mance Rayder, but I don't really think he's Rhaegar, but that would be funny. It really
would. It really would.
But what I do like about the Wildlings is that they chose him to lead them. They didn't, and that's basically because he wanted to be free. He used to be a man of the Night's Watch. And she tells Jon that Jon can be free. You don't need to live your whole life taking commands from old men. And she tells him that...
I was going to say, it's true. That was it.
It is very true. And she tells him that he's a pretty lad, which he is. And girls would claw each other's eyes out to get naked with him.
I mean, he's a nice looking guy. So, I mean, she's not lying. Part of you thinks that she's just saying that so he'll release her. I think it's both. I think it's that, and she's catching feelings. I do.
She definitely has a hot for him, yeah. And she tells him that I can teach you how to do it. And he's like, I know how to do it. You know nothing, Jon Snow.
That's so funny.
How can a man be brave if he's afraid? And that is the only time a man can be brave, he told me.
So after that, we go to Robb Stark's camp. And basically the whole point of this is he meets with Sir Alton, who was the person sent to bring the terms to Cersei. And he's nervous, obviously. And he's trying to smooth it over because he's afraid. And Rob's like, what did she say? And he says, she admired your spirit, your grace. And he's like, and what then? And he's like, she tore the paper in half. Robb has a really cool line right there. If every man were held accountable for the actions of every distant relative, we'd all hang. It just shows what kind of person he is. Roose is already saying there's too many prisoners because he's itching to flay somebody. I mean, really. So, what do you think about her? Do you like her? Yeah.
Lisa?
Do you like her?
No, I don't. I mean, I think they have really good chemistry, her and Robb, but I like how Roose's face is like, really?
Roose
Really?
knows. Roose is like, Roose literally, like, as much as you may hate Roose Bolton, he looks at her going into the tent with Robb and he's like, yeah, that's demise right there. He knows. He knows.
Yep.
He knows that Robb has promised to Frey, and I wouldn't be surprised if Roose isn't already plotting. I'm sure he is.
I just don't like her because she kind of makes fun of like the fact that, well, because she's you know, a nurse or a doctor or whatever, and she's working on, she's a healer. She's working on men, even like all of Robb's men and all, you know, the enemy's men, even though that's not really her enemy. And I just don't like how she mocks him so much. I mean, like later she mocks him about the bridge. It's just stupid.
Yeah, the thing is like, okay, if you want to give him shit, okay, do that. But like, she does it repetitively, and it's like, okay, we get it. You're a badass. We got it.
She's a noble woman, but doesn't seem to understand war.
No, she does not. And I don't know. It's just, she irritates me. And then I'm like, she's okay. And then she irritates me. So she comes in and she's like all covered in blood and stuff and tells Robb they're low on supplies. And she says, you know, you're going to, what is he going to treat with someone, I think?
Yeah, at the Crag, which the Crag is the seat of House Westerling in the Westerlands. The fact that they couldn't put Jane Westerling in this is pissing me off, but it is what it is.
Jane Westerling is supposed to be who Robb falls for, but read the books. Yep. Or listen to them. So she comes in and she's like, hey, I'm running out of supplies. And some, you know, are easy to replace, but some are not. And she needs like silk for stitching. And she's like, okay, you're going to the Crag. Can I just give you a list? And he's like, I want you to come with me. And she's like, oh, and he's like, let the maester show you his stores. I want the wounded men to be treated well. All the wounded men, which he knows is important to her. And yes, Robb is like that. He would have probably said that anyway. But I put right here, he falls for her, and this is his end right here. Come with me to the Crag. That right there is the beginning of the end.
His own men don't even like that he brought her.
Oh yeah, I was hoping you were going to bring that up. They've noticed. So, and okay, is it right for them to talk shit about her? No, but you've got to understand this is war. He swore an oath that got them across the twins, and everybody is seeing him with this other woman, and he's betrothed. So we're starting to see discontent for the first time with Robb's army.
What is dead may never die!
Hey, we got some more Theon. You want to take it?
Yeah, it's a short scene, but the hounds apparently have lost the scent. They're at the farm, and he tells Maester Lewin and everybody around him that he will beat the hounds until they find the scent, because they will find it again. And I'll whip every man here until I have those boys. And then he begins to say he might do something to the Bran and Rickon, but he doesn't really say what he's going to do. And Maester Lewin's just like, no, like we can't do this, you know. But they do talk to the farm, the guy that owns the farm, asking him where Bran and Rickon are, and he beats him up because he's like, I don't know where they are. He's not telling the truth, but you know, I would believe him, honestly, the way he looks.
Yeah, it's sad. Theon is just really trying to look like a badass. I mean, that's basically what's going on, and it's just like, damn, dude.
Yeah, and Dagmar finds walnuts shells, so I know that because Rickon likes walnuts, and so they know that they're there, and they send Maester Lewin home because Theon's going to do some horrible things.
And now we know why we saw in the previous episode that he was eating walnuts, because betrayal.
Where are my dragons?
So we go back to Karth, and this scene got to me more than I thought it would. Daenerys just looks so sad, and Jorah shows up, and she says, "You came back," because he had gone to find her a ship with a captain, and he says, "As soon as I heard, do you know anything?" And Daenerys says, "Eerie is dead," and she said, "She's dead. She died alone. She died for me, and I couldn't protect her." And he asked about Dorea, and Daenerys says, "We can't find her. She must be dead too. I led my people out of the Red Waste and into a slaughterhouse." Wow, that doesn't really sound like somebody mad. It sounds like somebody that gives a damn, but okay.
Did you notice that Jorah was out of breath?
Yeah, like I think he actually ran.
He did. It was really good acting.
Oh my God. The actor that plays Jorah is such a good actor. His voice, I love his voice. Okay, so Jorah says, "I should have been here." And Daenerys said, "You went to find me a ship." He says, "My place is by your side. I shouldn't have left you alone with these people." And she's like, "These people?" And he says, "They're not to be trusted." And this whole scene it's so layered, and there's so much in it, and it's not a long scene. But she says, "And who is to be trusted? Who are my people? The Targaryens? I only knew one, my brother, and he would have let 1,000 men assault me if it had got him the crown. The Dothraki, most of them turned on me the day that Khal Drogo fell from his horse." Jorah says, "Your people are in Westeros." And Daenerys says, "The people in Westeros don't know I'm alive." And Jorah says, "They will soon enough." And she says, "And then what? They'll pray for my return. They'll wave dragon banners and shout my name. That's what my brother believed, and he was a fool." Jorah says, "You are not your brother. Trust me, Khaleesi." And Daenerys says, "There it is. Trust me. And it's you I should trust, Ser Jorah. Only you. I don't need trust any longer. I don't want it, and I don't have room for it." And he actually reaches for her, and she says, "You are too familiar." Which is true. She's trying to put up a wall, which she has to do. And he says, "Forgive me, Khaleesi. No one can survive in this world without help. No one. Let me help you, please. Tell me how." And she says, "Find my dragons." She knows he's in love with her. She's frustrated. She's trying to, basically, she's trying to be professional about it. And I think part of her somewhere doesn't want to hurt him because it can't be. But that's just me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, she's frustrated. She's angry. She doesn't know what to do. But I don't, she knows he's in love with her, but I think that wall that she put up is for both of them, actually. So,
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
so John, any grit?
So basically, she's just trying to get with him still, and it's very obvious that she wants him, but at the same time, she wants to, because he every time she brings this up, he like gets pink in the cheeks.
Yep.
But did you notice that during this whole time where she's like, oh, Mr. Crow King, like talking about the men of the Night's Watch, because obviously John cannot sleep with her, because he took a vow. She she like she's being really funny. She's talking about perfume lords and like I'll never be able to be with a perfume lord, which I think it's funny that she said perfume. I'm like, have you ever smelled a perfume lord? Um, but John looks like he wants to laugh. I wonder if that so much was John or Kit,
Both.
because he's like fighting to laugh. He's fighting
I love
it.
that you said that, because just in case people don't know, that is Kit Harington and Rose Leslie, and they eventually get married. So Andrea is probably right. That's probably Jon Snow trying not to smile at Ygritte while Kit is trying not to smile at Rose. And I think that's beautiful.
And I think it's beautiful, and it's not. That doesn't mean it's a bad acting. He's just breaking character. His face is, like I said, I like watching people's facial reactions to things, and you could tell he wanted to laugh.
I like that a lot.
But she thinks he's dull, because he tries to pull out her sword because she's getting really close to him. I think this was mainly just to distract him at the same time, and then she breaks away and gets away.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
And there's a bunch of wildlings hanging out there, and they're gonna take him.
Yep.
Winter is coming.
This next scene is really sad. I know it bothers Andrea a lot. Sansa's having a nightmare. She's reliving the men that grabbed her and tried to assault her. And she wakes up and she has had her first period and she is terrified. And she knows this means marriage to Joffrey. So she's literally trying to like tear the bloodstain out, and she's just in full panic. And Shay comes in, and see, this is when Shay hurts me, because Shay says, "Help me flip it over," and immediately goes into, "I'm gonna help you." A handmaiden walks in and sees it and walks out to go tell Cersei. Shay chases her down and puts a knife against her throat and says, "You're not going to tell anybody." But by the time Shay gets back in there with Sansa, the Hound's there. So there's nothing she could do. Like, don't you like Shay in this moment? So it kills me later.
And that's why it makes me so. Yeah, it kills me when she changes, because it shows that she probably didn't really care 100% about Sansa at some point, and I don't know why, because it's not Sansa's fault. None of this is. I have to say, I forgot that she had a nightmare. I forgot about that, and it was different from what actually happened because she was killed.
I forgot too.
Like that makes me so sad for her. Such good acting, by the way, her reaction. Okay, so she's talking to Cersei, and she tells Cersei that she thought it would be different, her period. And Cersei's like, "What do you mean different? Like how? Less messy." And she's like, "Oh, just wait till you have kids."
I mean, also, that means Kat didn't really explain period. So, okay.
Catelyn is just not that great of a mom.
Like, what did she say one day? She probably just said, "You're going to flower one day."
Yeah.
I mean, and had
probably.
poor Sansa thinking that, like, oh, okay, one day a flower is going to pop out of me. I swear to God.
That's what I wrote. I was like, I bet she thought flowers were going to come out.
No way, you wrote that?
Poor Sansa.
Okay, see? That's why this is my best friend. Right there. Both of us like, yeah, she probably thought a flower was going to pop out of her. God almighty.
That poor girl just is so naive, and a lot of people hate her for how stupid she. Well, I don't think she's stupid.
Some people think she's stupid, though. They do.
Yeah, but she's not. But she's not this scene. She's not excited about having her period either. And Cersei tells her that she's a woman now, which in your face to all these people that hate on relationships that have big age gaps. When they are flowered, they are able to get married.
And that's the way it was. That's the way it
Yes.
was, like,
So
in real history. Like,
yes,
yeah, they waited. First time you have your period, all right, it's time for you to start having kids.
Yep. Cersei says that this is like the greatest honor to be a queen and have little princes and princesses in the world. And she talks about, well, Sansa does say she loves Joffrey, and Cersei's like, you may not love him now, but she will love her kids if she has kids with him. And she talks about how Joffrey has always been difficult, even at birth. She labored a day and a half, and Robert was out hunting, and he said he could hear her screams from the woods. And Sansa's like, wait, the king wasn't with you? No. Every time she gave him a child, he would be out hunting and drinking, and he would bring her back pelts and stag heads. And she would be in the room with like Maester Pycelle, handmaidens, and Jaime. And they told Jaime he wasn't allowed in the birthing room, but he smiled at them and asked which one was going to keep him out. And Cersei tells Sansa that Joffrey will never show you that devotion. You may never love him, but you will love his children. Love no one but your children. A mother has no choice. And she's like, shouldn't I love Joffrey? You can try, little dove.
I think that is heartbreaking. That we talk about, book and show being so different. Cersei's another one, big difference. And Cersei is not 100% evil. There are cracks that go through, and this is one of them. Andrea and I think that show Cersei would have been different had Robert been different. And I think this is an example of that, because Andrea and I think Robert was so absolutely terrible that, I mean, she ran to Jaime for comfort. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not. I'm just saying I think that's what happened. Because she was so miserable.
And I feel like, well, yeah, and I feel like Joffrey would be different too if his dad actually paid attention to him, to be honest. And because Tom and Marcella are so different compared to him. They're sweet, they're innocent, and Joffrey just loves to be cruel.
Yeah. And, I mean, hell, Robert admits that on his deathbed.
I know.
That scene kind of gets to me though, because it's just Cersei being completely honest, and we don't get that a lot. Cersei always has a casterly rock walls, it doesn't let anybody through, but when she does, it's like,
Well, when she talks about the children, you'll always love your children. I thought it was interesting because later, after all her kids are dead, she tells Jaime, we're the only ones that are the most important. And I'm like, what about your kids that you loved?
Good point. Yet another season 8 character completely changed. Bad writing. Bag of shit. I love that. That's a very good point, Andrea. Thank you for thinking of that. Because we always talk about Jaime and how they ruin his arc. Well, there you go.
Yep. She gets ruined too.
Well, and when Joffrey has Robert's illegitimate children murdered, like, you could tell Cersei's trying to not act bothered, but she was. So, very good point.
Winter is coming.
So we go to the Riverlands. We're at the Stark camp. And Alton has been put in the same cage, whatever, with Jaime. And he's like, who did you say your mother was again? And he says, Cinda Lannister.
She also
I
doesn't
was going to
exist.
say, did you, because Andrea's going to look it up. I didn't think so. There's no Cinda, right?
No, it's supposed to be Jenna. Jenna is supposed to be his mom.
Which would make sense. Oh, Jesus.
Yes.
Well, and this is what irritates me is he says there's only one fat Lannister. If she was your mother, you'd know it. And like he's talking about her.
Yeah.
So
She was a bigger woman.
I don't get it, but whatever. Um Alton
They mentioned Willem Frey's wedding. Willem Frey exists in the books. Like, I don't
I
understand.
don't either. I have no idea. And she's actually a great
They
character.
also messed up who Jamie. They also messed up who Jamie squires for because he said he squired for Sir Barristan Stelmy in the books as Sumner Craycall.
Whatever.
And I don't know if Jamie ever mentions who knighted him, but Sir Arthur Dayne, for anyone that wants to know, is the one that knighted him.
Which is a big deal. Because that's the sword of the morning.
Sword of the Morning, and Jamie squired for Sumner Craycall for 4 years.
I don't really understand this. Okay.
I don't understand.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just going to kind of condense it because basically what this is, Alton squired for Jamie, and it was the best moment of his life. And he goes on to describe how amazing it was. He remembers even like where the dent in his shield was, like such a big deal. And Jamie all of a sudden acts like he remembers who he is. And, is talking to him and they're having like actually a really good conversation. Because, Jamie's telling him about when he was 16. Well, one thing I thought was really interesting, and I want to know your opinion. Alton tells the whole story of, getting to squire for Jamie. And he says, okay, he's basically was the last one standing around at the tourney. And he says, I couldn't leave. I couldn't bring myself to go and sit with my family at a table so far on the edge of the feast, you could barely even see the bride. And I couldn't bear to tell them what it had been like squiring for you, when I knew that they could never have the faintest idea what I was talking about. Okay. So he is saying he wanted to stay in the spotlight and I didn't want to go sit at the lower table with my family. Do you think that's when Jamie rationalized it a bit? Okay, yeah. Okay. Because I was like, and Jamie almost kind of has a look. And I think that's when Jamie's like, oh, okay, well, you didn't even want to go sit with your family. They weren't good enough for you. So
yeah, I also he mentions that Jamie unhorsed Balon Swan, and I'm like, Balon Swan gets unhorsed so many times at tournaments.
It's like, why do you even try, man?
I swear, every single tournament he was like unhorsed by Rhaegar a couple of times. Jamie, like, it's just funny.
It's very funny. Okay, so Jamie tells them the story that he squired for Barristan Selmy, and he's ingratiating himself to Alton because he's saying, I wasn't like you, I was a terrible squire. And, they're getting closer and closer. And Alton's like, so have you thought about, like, and he means escape. And Jamie is, of course, every day. There is a way, but it wasn't possible until now. And Alton's like, what is it? And Jamie says, it's actually quite simple. And Alton says, let me help you. Jamie says, you'll only have to do one thing. You'll have to die. And then Jamie like knocks him out and just punches him over and over again. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, sad. It is sad. But you kind of had a feeling it was coming because Jamie was getting closer. I don't know.
Yeah. He also kills a guard, which is Rickard Karstark, one of his sons.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for bringing that up because that's a big deal later.
Yes.
Okay, so I have questions for you on this next one. All right, we go to Karth, and it's Quaithe. The one that we keep telling you about is a big deal. She falls off in the show, but so interesting. I remembered her painting on someone. I did not remember it was goat's blood. There is a goat head that has like an opening, and she is using the blood to paint on the back of a man who is naked. And Jorah walks up, and you can tell Jorah's like, what is this? And she says, this man must sail past old Valyria. All who travel too close to the doom must have protection. I was staring at the symbols on his back. Do you think they just made up those symbols for the show? Or you think it might mean something? It's probably made up.
I mean, it could be made up, but I feel like they are meaningful. But they never talk about. I mean, they talk about the Doom maybe a couple of times after this, and that's it. I mean, Valeria is really important, especially in the books, because like there's something going on there.
True. I even made like a
People keep going missing.
Yeah, true. That's very true. People do go missing. I made like a rough drawing of what's on his back. I want to kind of look at it, and I want to see if they put more thought into it or if it's just random.
It could be just random, but it's interesting that like where'd they come up with this lore?
Yeah, exactly. And we know that George was involved during this time, and that's the reason why I'm wondering if there's more to it. Later on, I'll know. No, that was just something they threw in. But in these early seasons, it makes me wonder, hey, did they ask George what she should paint? You know what I mean? So, Jorah is, he's freaking out. So he goes to her because Quaithe knows all. And he says, I didn't come here for lessons. And she said, no, you came for the dragons. And he thinks she has them. Where are they? And he starts to draw his sword, and her back is to him. And she says, draw your sword, see what your steel is worth. You want to please the mother of dragons. And Quaithe says, you love her. And George just has this look on his face. And he says, where are the dragons? Quaithe turns around, and she says, will you betray her again, Jorah the Andal? And you talk about facial acting, Andrea? His face drops. Like, how could she know this? And oh God, I can't believe I did that. And she's not aggressive now. She is not aggressive saying this to him. She just simply asks, but there's like direct eye contact. Will you betray her again? And Jorah looks like he's almost about to cry, and he says, never. And Quaithe knows he's telling the truth because it's Quaithe. And she says,
yeah.
I mean, really, honestly, she knows he's telling the truth. And she says, the thief you seek is with her now. How the hell she knows what she knows, we don't know, but tiny scene means a lot, made me tear up.
Dracarys.
Since we got like the Silk King and the Spice King, you want to talk about this creepy shit?
I really like this scene because it's really good acting.
I knew it. I was like, this is too creepy. I know she loves it. I know it.
Well, yeah, so the 13 are all talking about the dragons. Okay. Well, so Daenerys is she's not really accusing, but she wants to know where her dragons are. And she says without her, that her dragons will die. And the Spice King's just like, well, that's a good thing because they will bring death and misery. And I mean, I get where he's coming from, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen, just because there's dragons.
I hate that. You know what I hate? I hate the dragons will bring death and misery, and then the damn flip a coin. Ugh.
Oh, yeah, that's in this episode too, isn't it? Pyat Pri is like, well, no, she needs to be with her dragon, so we're gonna help. We'll help them, and because they're at the House of the Undying, the dragons are at the House of the Undying, and he wants her to go. Like, he really is desperate for her to go there. I mean, she needs to go, but she's just kind of like freaking out. You know what I noticed? Right. So they talk about how they have a king of Karth, and that's, I guess, Xaro.
Yeah.
Well, weird.
Yeah, that's the arrangement they made. Creepy.
Yeah, that's the arrangement they made. But I think it's interesting, like the act, again, silent acting. Daenerys doesn't even say anything really. She just steps back
Yep.
and like looks at him like,
Yep.
she's just shocked. But also like, I don't want to be she doesn't stand. She was standing next to him the whole time in the scene, except for when Pirate Priest says the king, and she's like, "There's no king of Karth," and Zara's like, "Now there is," and then she just backs
She
away.
does, because Jorah and Kavaro are back there, and she immediately steps back for protection. You're right, and that's a good point. Very good.
Yeah, she's terrified of this guy. I would be too. But Zara's just like, "Hey, we're gonna do this. You can't be the greatest city ever if you don't help people." And so he's gonna open Karth up to the world.
Yep. And the 13 are looking at him like, what the hell are you even talking about, dude?
Yeah. It's really great acting scene, and Pyatt Pri, because they're not gonna help Dany. They don't want to help Dany at all because they don't trust her. And Pyatt Pri is like, well, no, her mother needs to be with her children, so he kills them all. He makes himself many for each man and kills them all.
Yep.
Well, except for Zara.
Yep. Comes out of nowhere because the magic is strong because of the dragons. He murders all of, I guess, the 12, because Zara is murders the 12 because, it's obviously not Zara. And Pirate Priest creepy as hell. He's like, a mother should be with her children. And then
he chases and follows her out because she tries
hell
to leave.
yeah. And he's like, where will you run to, Daenerys Stormborn? Your dragons wait for you in the House of the Undying. Come see them. Pre. I say that because that's all Pyatt Pri can say when you're on Greyjoy's ship. Pre. All right. So Daenerys is freaked out and they leave.
Winter is coming.
Next, we go back to the Riverlands, and Brienne is very protective of Cat because a guy tries to come in, and he's like, keep your hands off me, woman. And Brienne goes, don't enter without an invitation, man. I was like, damn, girl, damn. Basically, what's happening in this is there's discontent, and it's growing louder and louder, which is something we have not seen before. And they want to kill Jaime. They
caught him again.
And it's like the Kingslayer, and everybody's just like, oh great, we got him, die. And especially Rickard Karstark, because he's like, this monster killed my son. And then Cat comes back with, in crippled mind, he will answer for his crimes, I promise you, but not here. And Rickard Karstark is pissed. And Cat pushes back, and this is interesting. So Cat's like, I'm the mother of your king. And Rickard is like, and where's our king now? And he says he's gone to the crag to accept the surrender. Gone to the crag. But not to negotiate. He brought that foreign bitch with him. I'm telling you, this is when Robb's army is very changed.
I also wanted to say that I think it's crazy that Jaime gets caught twice. Like, he's an idiot.
Kind of funny.
He's not as awesome as they say if he is easily caught.
True. Like Jaime can fight, but he doesn't know how to hide.
Oh no.
So, what do you think? You think? I mean, Rickard has a damn point. Jesus.
Yeah. It's not a good thing that Robb brought this woman with, because he's promised to somebody else, and they know that, and they need this so they can cross, and he's destroying it. But also Catelyn, I don't know, but it's just a mess.
It is.
And I like when she tells Jamie to be put in with more chains or whatever and locked up again, and he goes, "You've become a she-wolf. Is there much fish left in you?"
I highlighted that. I thought that was really funny.
Everyone who isn't us is an enemy.
Next, we have an interesting scene. We are in Cersei's bedroom. Tyrion's in there. And Tyrion's like, "Since when do you light your own candles?" And Cersei says, "Since I decided I can't stand to look at any of my handmaidens for another instant." I was like, damn, okay. So they're talking about Stannis' fleet has been spotted, 200 ships, and they're close. And Tyrion thinks they'll be within the gates within about 5 days. Cersei is unbothered. And she starts talking about they have high walls and they'll rain fire down from above. And Tyrion is just like, Joffrey needs to start acting like a king. Like, this is just a shit mess. And Cersei throws the brothel ladies in his face, like, "You gave him whores to abuse." And Tyrion's like, "Nah, I thought that would help. Like, I didn't do that, you know." He's trying to tell her, "I didn't do that to be mean." And Tyrion's like, "I mean, what if we can't control him?" And Cersei says, "Do you think I haven't tried? He doesn't listen to me." And Tyrion makes a very good point. He says it's hard to put a leash on a dog once you put a crown on his head.
Yeah, she hoped that he would be like Jamie, and he's not.
No, he is not.
And she asks if this is the price of our sins, and Tyrion's like, "Sins? The Targaryens? Yeah, the Targaryens wed brother and sisters for hundreds of years. And half the Targaryens went mad, didn't they? What's the saying? Every time a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin."
I get so tired of every time a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin. Every time anyone is born, the gods flip a coin. Yeah.
I mean, they act like the Targaryens are the only ones that go mad. They don't.
Oh, God, I get so tired of that. It's interesting, though, because Tyrion is trying to be genuine here, and he immediately says, "You've beaten the odds. Tommen and Myrcella are good, decent children." Cersei starts to cry. Tyrion slowly walks over, and he wants to comfort her, and she wants him to comfort her, but like there's been too much bad blood, and they just can't, which is pretty heartbreaking. It's too far gone.
The things I do for love.
We go back to Robb's camp, and it is rowdy, to say the very least. And Kat wants to go meet with Jamie. And Brienne points out something very valid, that the Kingslayer won't last the night. The more they drink, the angrier they'll get. And when the Karstarks draw their swords, who wants to die defending a Lannister? Which is actually ironic because of later. But you can hear him in the background, and like you even hear some guy saying, "The Kingslayer dies tonight," or something like that. So Kat thinks, he's going to be murdered, which I'm sure he probably would have been. And so she goes to meet with Jamie and basically says, "Hey, do you hear all that? They want you dead." And Catelyn is like, "You're no knight. You've forsaken every vow you ever took." And Jamie makes a good point. I have a feeling Andrea likes the point that he makes about the vows. Defend the king, obey your father, protect the innocent, defend the weak. But what if your father despises the king? What if the king massacres the innocent? It's too much. No matter what you do, you're forsaking one vow or another. Where did you find this beast? And he's talking about Brienne. But what he says before that is valid. I mean,
yeah. He even asks if that was a woman, because he was like, "What?" He's not. He's just never.
No, and it's at night, and so he's just like, "Huh?"
But I agree with him in this scene because I don't understand why he gets hated so much for killing Aerys Targaryen, because she's like, you are a Kingslayer, you killed the king, and he's like, what a king he was. And she says, you're a man without honor. Yeah, I mean, the man burned people alive. He killed
Yep.
people. I don't mind him killing people after Duskendale, but after that, it's too much.
Too
I
far
mean,
gone.
Ned's
Yep.
dad and yeah.
No, you're right. Which is either, the remnants of him, being tortured and all that, or, we've thought that maybe there's a lot of theories about Ares. There's theories he might have had dragon dreams. There's theories that Bloodraven could have tried to talk to him and warn him, and it just cracked his brain. We don't know. But let's just say Jamie didn't do anything wrong.
No. And I like how when she tells him that he has no honor, he goes, I've never been with any other woman besides Cersei, so I have way more honor than poor old dead Ned. And he brings up a point about Jon, because he's like, doesn't he have the bastard Snow, a bastard from the north? Did you pretend to love it when Ned brought him there? No, you're not good. You're not good at pretending. You hated him because that's another woman's child, and you hated him for it. I don't understand hating a child for what the dad does.
No, but I find it interesting that Jamie knew, and the look on her face.
Winter is coming.
All right, so we're back at Winterfell. This is the end of the episode, and Theon is telling them, like, hey, I told you what would happen if you serve me loyally. I've also told you what would happen if you don't. And like, you guys were still questioning me. Are you questioning me now? And then they're pushing the Ironborn are pushing Maester Luwin into the crowd, and he doesn't understand what's going on. And Theon shows two boys. They're hanging on the side of the wall, and they're all completely burnt. There's nothing recognizable about them. And that we're supposed to believe that is Bran and Rickon, because even Maester Luwin reacts to it. And they show Theon's face after that, and he does show some remorse, and that's what we were talking about earlier. I think that's probably him thinking that could possibly be his children, or he actually does feel bad for harming Bran and Rickon because they're kids.
I gotta give Alfie credit, man.
Yeah.
Damn, did he do some great acting with that.
As always, it's Amanda here to say thank you to all of our listeners and to ask that if you liked this week's episode, leave us an honest rating. And if you'd like to continue the discussion, please feel free to comment on our post over at our Girls Nerd Out podcast account on Instagram. If you're interested in buying any of our merch to support the podcast and so that we can continue to release weekly episodes, then check it out over at girlsnerdoutpodcast.com. Our podcast logo was designed by Chairman Bilal over on Fiverr. Our podcast merch was put together by me, myself, and I at Southern Mother of Dragons on all social media. If you're interested in my personal merch, check it out at southernmotherofdragons.com. And the designs for that merch were put together by Ryuchi Studios on Etsy after an in-depth back and forth discussion with me to find the perfect merch for me and my loyal supporters. The music played while I tell you about all the ways you can support us and the production of the podcast is Kawaii Girl by Pumpkin Pie. Thanks for listening.
Hey, this is Andrea.
And this is Amanda.
And you just listened to
Girls Nerd Out.